AITA for exposing my husband's secret family over a missed phone call? My name is Natalie. The key turned in the lock close to midnight. I recognized the slow, tired sound. It was Michael. He had been away for 2 weeks on a business trip to New Orleans. I was in the living room with an open book on my lap that I could not manage to read. The floor lamp cast a yellowish circle of light on the armchair. The door opened and then slammed shut. There was no "hello, honey," no sound of a suitcase rolling across the hardwood floor, just heavy, determined footsteps heading straight for me. Michael Bennett, my husband, appeared in the living room doorway. He was wearing the same gray suit he had left in, now wrinkled. His face, normally serene and calculating, was tense. His eyes, the color of wet slate, stared at me with an intensity that was not longing. "Natalie," he said my name, and it was an empty echo, not a greeting. "Michael, welcome home." He ignored my words, taking a few steps forward and dropping his leather briefcase to the floor. His gaze scanned me as if searching for something, a crack, a sign of guilt. "How was the trip?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral and flat. "The trip," he spat, biting off each syllable. "It was long, exhausting, full of endless meetings and difficult clients. I am sorry." "You are sorry?" A short, dry laugh escaped his throat. He took another step. Now he was close enough for me to smell the faint scent of coffee and tobacco on his clothes. "Do you know what is really exhausting, Natalie? Working 12-hour days, dealing with problems, and then coming back to the hotel alone and wondering why your wife has not bothered to pick up the phone even once in 14 days. There it was. The accusation hung in the air between us, thick and hot. I had felt it coming from the moment he walked in. "Michael, we are talking now." "It is not the same," he shouted, his fist hitting the back of a nearby armchair. The noise made me flinch inside, but I did not move. 14 days, Natalie. 14. Not one call, not one text to ask how I am. Nothing. Do I mean so little to you? I took a deep breath. The book on my lap felt like it weighed a ton. I watched his face, marked by fatigue and a genuine, almost childish rage. It was the anger of someone who feels ignored and scorned. For years, that anger would have terrified me. I would have rushed to apologize, to make up excuses, to try to calm the storm. But that night, something inside me was still and cold, like the marble of the kitchen floor. "I did call, Michael," I said, and my voice sounded clear, strangely calm in the charged room. He blinked, as if he had not heard me correctly. "What did you say?" I said yes. "I did call. Several times, in fact." "Your cell phone." "The first time was 12 days ago on a Tuesday night. Then on Thursday and last Sunday." His furious expression froze. It fractured for an instant with confusion. "No, I did not get any calls. There is no record. You are lying to cover for yourself." "I am not lying," I assured him, slightly adjusting my position in the armchair. I kept my gaze fixed on his. "I did not call your work phone, the one you give out. I called the other one, the one you keep in the inner pocket of your jacket, the one with the brown leather case worn at the edges." The silence that fell then was absolute. It was not the silence from before, filled with reproach. This was different, thick and icy. I watched as the color began to drain from his face. The fury vanished, revealing something naked and vulnerable. His lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. "The first time," I continued, as if narrating the facts of a stranger's case, "a little girl answered, a sweet little voice. She said, 'Hello, who is this?' I asked if I could speak to you. She told me, 'Daddy is in the shower. Do you want me to tell him something?'" Michael let out a choked sound, as if he could not breathe. His hand reached for the back of the armchair for support. He was no longer pale. He was ashen. "No, Natalie, listen. The second time," I went on, relentless, "a young woman answered, judging by her voice, with a very distinct southern accent. From New Orleans, I would say. I asked for you." She hesitated for a second. Then she said, with a calmness I now admire, "Michael cannot come to the phone right now." "Who is calling?" I hung up. "Please." His voice was a threat, a hoarse whisper. "The third time was the most revealing," I said, and for the first time I noticed a tremor in my own hands. I clutched the book tighter. The little girl answered again. She was laughing. In the background I could hear the woman, the one with the southern voice, saying, "Lily, sweetie, who is it?" And the girl, that girl with such a sweet voice, yelled, "Mommy, I do not know, she is not saying anything." And then she whispered into my ear, "You are the lady from Daddy's work." The word "mommy" echoed in the room like a gunshot. Michael staggered back as if he had been struck. All the lines of his body, previously tense with anger, now crumbled. He collapsed into the armchair across from me, burying his head in his hands. His breathing was ragged and shallow. "Oh God, Natalie, I am sorry. It was not my intention." "What was not your intention, Michael?" I asked, and my composure began to crack, revealing the cutting edge of my pain. "That I would not find out you have another family in New Orleans? That it was not your intention for that little girl to call the same man who does not answer his wife's calls in Chicago Daddy?" He lifted his head. His eyes were filled with panic, a visceral fear I had never seen in him. It was not fear of losing me, it was fear of his carefully constructed world falling apart. "Her name is Carla," he said, and his voice broke on the name. "And Lily is 6 years old." 6 years old. The number pierced me like an icy knife. 6 years ago I had lost a pregnancy. It had been in the second trimester, a boy. Michael had been on a crucial project in New Orleans during those months. He had come to Chicago for the weekend of the memorial, quiet and distant. I had attributed his coldness to grief or men's inability to express it. Now I understood his silence. It was not mourning, it was guilt or perhaps relief. 6 years, I repeated softly. "A daughter. You have a daughter." It was before we were serious, Natalie," he stammered, desperately grasping for a branch to hold on to. "Carla and I. It was a youthful relationship. When I found out about the pregnancy, I was already with you. We were already engaged. With our families, everything was so complicated. She decided to have her. I provide for them. I give them what they need. But you are my wife. This is my home. I swear." His words fell like counterfeit coins. "Worthless. Provide. A youthful relationship. You are my wife." They were the phrases of a trapped man, not a repentant one. "And your cell phone?" "The worn case," I asked, unable to stop myself. "It is the daddy phone. The one you use when you are with your other family." Michael could not meet my gaze. He nodded almost imperceptibly. It is just easier that way. To keep things separate." A bitter laugh escaped me. It sounded horrible even to my own ears. Keep things separate. God, Michael, you have a daughter. This is not about separating bank accounts or work trips. You have a daughter with another woman. You live a life with her when you are in New Orleans, and then you come back here to your life with me and have the audacity to get angry because I do not call you. Because I do not feed the fantasy that I am the center of your world, when clearly I am not. I am not even the only one. You are, he insisted, with a spark of his old intensity. This what we have is real. The thing with Carla is an obligation, a responsibility. It is not love, not like what I feel for you. Enough! I screamed, jumping to my feet. The book fell to the floor with a dull thud. I could not sit still any longer. The pent-up energy coursed through me like an electric current. I do not want to hear your justifications. I do not want to hear you belittle the mother of your child. An obligation. Is that what your daughter is to you? An obligation you attend to in secret for 6 years while your wife in Chicago wonders why her marriage feels like an empty stage. He stood up too, alarmed. Natalie, please let us calm down. Let us talk about this like adults. Like adults. I interrupted, pointing at him with a trembling finger. You have been lying to me for years. You have built a parallel life and you want to talk like adults? No. There is nothing to talk about. The words ran out, Michael. They ran out the moment that little girl picked up the phone. I walked to the window overlooking the city lights in the Gold Coast. Outside, Chicago was breathing in the night. Lights from restaurants, couples strolling, life going on. I felt trapped behind glass, separated from it all. You have to leave, I said without turning around. What? His voice was an incredulous whisper. You have to leave. Now. You cannot stay here tonight. Natalie, this is my house too. Not anymore. I turned to face him and finally, the tears I had been holding back appeared. Hot and burning with rage, not sadness. This was the house of a marriage, of a man and a woman who loved each other, or so I thought. But it turns out it was the house of a bachelor who travels to see his other family. So no, Michael, tonight this house is no longer yours. Take what you need and go to a hotel, to New Orleans, wherever you want, but get out of my sight. He remained motionless, as if not processing the words. He looked younger, smaller, defeated. The powerful architect, the heir of the Bennetts, reduced to a man with empty hands. And then what? He asked desperately. Then nothing. I do not know. But right now you have to go. Please. The last word sounded like a plea. A plea for him to give me back control, if only over the physical space I was in. Michael understood. He nodded slowly, mechanically, picked up his briefcase from the floor, walked past me without touching me, and went up the stairs to the bedroom. I listened to the sound of drawers opening, the closet door. He did not take long. He came down with a small suitcase, the one he used for short trips. He stopped at the front door, looked at me. His eyes sought mine, perhaps searching for a glimmer of forgiveness, of weakness. I wiped the tears with the back of my hand and held his gaze, cold and empty. I will call you tomorrow, he said in a hoarse voice. Do not bother. He opened the door. The noise from the street rushed into the sepulchral silence of the apartment. Then the door closed. The click of the lock sounded final. I let myself fall back into the armchair, hugging myself. The book was still on the floor. On the coffee table, my cell phone was face down. Picked it up. On the screen, beneath a photo of a sunset on a beach Michael and I had visited an eternity ago, was a call log. 3 calls made to a number not saved in my contacts, the number from the brown leather case. I had called him not once but 3 times, and each of those calls had shattered my world, word by word, voice by voice. I rested my forehead against the cold glass of the window. Outside on the street, I saw Michael's figure emerge from the building's entrance. He was carrying his suitcase. He stopped for a moment, looked up toward our window. I did not move, I did not turn on a light. I remained in the darkness, watching as he walked away, becoming just another shadow among the shadows of Chicago. Alone. For the first time in 7 years of marriage, I was completely alone. And yet, it was also the first time in a long time that I felt I was seeing things clearly. Michael's suitcase was still by the door. I saw it when I left the bedroom the next morning, a black incongruous lump on the light marble entryway. I had not touched it. I had not touched anything. After he left, I had remained sitting in the armchair until the sky began to lighten. Then I went up to the room. Our room. The unmade bed still held the impression of where I had slept. The other side, his side, was impeccable. The sheets were taut. He had not slept there in 2 weeks. Perhaps, I thought bitterly, he had never truly slept there at all. I took off the clothes from the day before and got into the shower. The hot water failed to undo the knot of ice in my chest. I got out, wrapped myself in a robe, and then, almost on autopilot, I opened Michael's closet. I was not looking for anything, or maybe I was. Maybe I was looking for more tangible proof than a little girl's voice on the phone. His clothes hung neatly. Expensive suits, perfectly aligned white and blue shirts, silk ties. It smelled of his cologne, of wood and bergamot, a scent that for years had felt safe, familiar. Now it made me nauseous. I ran my hand along the hangers until I reached the back. There, hanging separately, was his formal suit, an impeccable black wool tuxedo, the one he wore for our wedding. I could not help it. I took it off the hanger. The fabric was heavy and fine. As I held it, something fell from an inside pocket to the floor with a metallic jingle. I bent down. It was the 13 silver coins, tied together with a white satin ribbon, now a little faded. Picked them up. They were cold. The 13 coins that, according to his family tradition, the groom gives the bride as a symbol of his commitment to provide. With all my worldly goods I thee endow. Michael had given them to me with his large, steady hands at the altar of St. Louis Cathedral. I, with my trembling hands, had accepted them. I accept them as a pledge of your love and your will. A gasp escaped me. I pressed the coins against my chest. The edge of one of them made a small cut in my palm. A sharp, clean pain. It was then that the memory, whole and vivid, struck me, not as a thought but as a flood. New Orleans. July. A leaden heat that shimmered over the cobblestones. I was in the cathedral's side room about to faint, not from the heat, but from sheer panic. "Breathe, Natalie," my sister Samantha told me, adjusting my veil. "You look like you are going to your own funeral, not your wedding." I tried to smile. The lace and silk dress weighed a ton. An exclusive design from a Chicago couturier. A gift from Michael's family. The Bennetts did things well, very well, too well. My family, the Thompsons, wine growers from Napa Valley with a good name but no titles of old money, had seen the wedding as a social step up. "He loves you, darling, and he is a good match from a good family," my father Anthony would say every time I expressed a doubt. I was only 24. I had met Michael Bennett 9 months earlier, at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. He was a successful architect, heir to a dynasty of Chicago lawyers and business leaders. I was a recent art history graduate, working in the family gallery. It was love at first sight, or so I thought. He was handsome, confident, and worldly. He made me feel special, chosen. In Chicago, everything was glamour. Dinners at the club, theater premieres, weekends in the suburbs. His mother, Eleanor, a woman with perfectly coiffed gray hair and an icy smile, inspected me like a racehorse. "You are charming, Natalie. So authentic." She said it as if authentic meant rustic, but Michael defended me. "You are the best thing that has ever happened to me," he would whisper. And I, raised in the countryside among vineyards and cellars, let myself be dazzled by the glitter of his world. When he proposed in the courtyard of a historic garden under the moonlight, I said yes without thinking. Or rather, thinking to avoid the disappointment in my father's eyes, the anxiety in my mother's, thinking that love, real love, would grow, that the uncomfortable details, his frequent trips to New Orleans, his cell phone that he sometimes turned off, his reluctance to talk about the future, would resolve themselves. Now, in the side room, the organ began to play. It was the signal. Samantha gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Courage, princess." I walked out. The cathedral aisle was endless. On either side, hundreds of faces, friends of the Bennetts in hats and designer suits, my simpler family and friends, their smiling faces full of pride. At the end, under the immense altarpiece, stood Michael, his back to me in his new tuxedo, his back broad and straight. Beside him was his best man and best friend, Jason. He turned. Our eyes met. He smiled at me. A wide, confident smile. The smile of a man who has everything under control. My heart skipped a beat. For a second, all the fear vanished. I walked toward him. The ceremony was a golden, somewhat overwhelming dream. Incense, organ music. The weight of centuries of history above our heads. When the time came for the 13 coins, Michael took them from the silver tray. His fingers brushed mine. They were warm, a little damp. His eyes fixed on mine seemed sincere. "Natalie," he said in a clear voice that resonated under the dome, "with these coins I give you all that I possess. I promise to share all my goods with you." I held out my hands, joined by the lace handkerchief my grandmother had given me. He dropped the coins one by one, a cold musical jingle. Then the officiant told me to accept them. I took the coins. They were heavier than I imagined. "I accept them," I said, my voice sounding faint, "as a pledge of your love." Afterward, the signing of the register, the kisses, the endless photos in the gardens. Eleanor organizing everything with military efficiency. My mother, Connie, crying with happiness. My father, steadfast, giving me a kiss on the forehead. "I am so proud, daughter." Michael never left my side. His hand on my waist, possessive, protective. He responded to congratulations with grace. He joked with his friends. He seemed like the happiest man in the world. I tried to imitate him. I smiled until my cheekbones hurt. The reception was at the country estate of some friends of the Bennetts on the outskirts of the city. Sparklers, long-clothed tables, flowers everywhere. An orchestra playing classic standards. Michael and I opened the dance. He was a good dancer. He led me firmly. "Happy, Mrs. Bennett?" he asked in my ear. I nodded, not trusting my voice. In his eyes I saw something. It was a flash of triumph or of relief. At that moment I did not know how to interpret it. It was during dinner that it happened. We were at the head table. Michael got up to greet an important associate who had arrived late. He left his jacket on the back of his chair, and a few minutes later, his cell phone, his personal one, the one he always carried, began to vibrate on the immaculate white tablecloth. I was talking to Jason's wife, a fun woman from Chicago, but the insistent buzzing distracted me. I glanced at the screen. It did not show a name, just a number, a New Orleans number. It vibrated once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. A minute later it started vibrating again, more insistently. "Must be something urgent," said Jason's wife with a smile. "These men are so important." Something made me pick up the phone. I do not know why. Maybe to silence it, maybe to take it to Michael. Picked it up. At that instant it stopped vibrating. A missed call icon appeared, and below it, a text message alert. I could only see the first line on the lock screen. "Michael, please call me. It is important." See, just an initial. My heart sank. It was not the heart of a happy bride. It was a dull thud of premonition. I put the phone back where it was as if it had burned me. When Michael returned with his easy smile, he put on his jacket without noticing. "Everything all right, darling?" he asked, kissing my temple. "Yes," I replied, forcing another smile. "Everything is perfect." He sat down. His phone vibrated again, this time in his pocket. He noticed. He reached in, took it out, looked at the screen. His expression, for a fraction of a second, froze. It was so fast that I later doubted if I had imagined it. Then he quickly turned off the phone and put it away. "Nothing important," he said, taking my hand. "Just work. Tonight is just for us." I believed his words. Or I wanted to believe them. The joy of the party, the wine, the music, it all pushed that small incident into a dark corner of my mind. I decided to forget it. See, I decided it was silly bridal jealousy, insecurities. We were newlyweds. The future was bright. The night ended late. We said goodbye to the last guest. A full moon hung over the oak trees. We went up to the bridal suite, a huge room with a balcony overlooking the gardens. Michael was euphoric. He talked nonstop about how well everything had gone, about how happy he was. I, exhausted, let myself be carried away by his enthusiasm. I was about to say something, maybe ask about the phone, when the work phone this time, rang again. This time he answered. He moved toward the balcony. "Hello," I heard. His posture stiffened. He lowered his voice. "No, not now. It is impossible." A pause. "I will explain tomorrow." "Yes, I promise tomorrow. I have to hang up now." He ended the call. He stood for a moment staring at the screen, his back to me. When he turned around, his smile was forced and tense. "A problem with the New Orleans project," he said with a hint of annoyance. "Always the same story. But tonight I am not thinking about it. Tonight I am only thinking of you." He approached and kissed me. His kiss was intense, almost desperate. I responded, but a part of me was already pulling away, growing cold. A problem with the New Orleans project. That was the first official lie of our marriage. The first of many. And the C from the message lingered in my memory like a stain on the perfect white of my wedding dress. I snapped back to the present. I was standing in my Chicago bedroom 7 years later, with the cold 13 coins clutched in my hand. My hand was bleeding a little. The C was not a work problem. It was her. She called him on our wedding day. He promised he would explain something to her tomorrow. The tomorrow of our honeymoon, the tomorrow of our first day as husband and wife, he had an explanation pending with another woman. And I, blind, in love, or simply a coward, had buried it all. I had chosen the comfort of ignorance, the shine of being Mrs. Bennett over the raw, painful truth. I dropped the coins on the bed. They made a hollow sound. With all my worldly goods I thee endow. The irony choked me. His goods, his life, his time, his promises, everything had been divided from day one, and I had only had a part, the presentable part, the Chicago part. I walked to the window. The morning sun bathed the city skyline. The city was waking up, oblivious to my drama. Down below by the door, Michael's suitcase remained, a physical reminder of his absence, of his other life. Then I understood. The business trip to New Orleans for these 2 weeks was not a trip. It was a visit. A visit to his family, to Carla, to Lily, the 6-year-old girl, the girl who already existed, who was already a year old when Michael and I were kneeling at the altar, exchanging the 13 coins and empty promises. A wave of pure, scorching rage rose from my stomach. It was not just pain, it was fury. Fury at him, fury at myself, fury at all those years of complicit silence, of half-truths, of gazes I averted, of calls I did not answer. Crying was no longer enough. Kicking him out was no longer enough. I needed to know. I needed to see. I needed to put a face to the sea, to put a body to the little girl's voice that said, "Daddy." I crossed the room, my steps heavy. On the floor next to my nightstand was my purse. I took out my phone. I did not look for Michael's number. I searched the internet. With trembling fingers I typed, "Private Investigator Chicago." Discretion. The screen filled with results. My gaze fell on one. The Harrington Agency. Confidential investigations. No trace. It had a number. I dialed it. A professional, neutral male voice answered on the third ring. "Harrington Agency, how can I help you?" I took a deep breath. The bride from Napa Valley, the naive wife, the woman who accepted false coins, was left behind. In her place spoke another, a woman with a voice hoarse from a sleepless night, but firm. "Good morning. I need your services. For surveillance. In New Orleans." The Harrington Agency turned out to be in a discreet building downtown with a small, sober plaque. The person I had spoken to on the phone was Mr. Harrington himself. We arranged to meet that same afternoon. I did not want to go out to see people to feign normality, but a new cold metallic energy drove me. It was no longer just pain. It was the need to know, to put a face to the ghosts, to turn anonymous voices into flesh and blood people. I dressed in simple clothes. Black pants, a sweater, a jacket. No makeup. Looking in the mirror, I saw a stranger. Eyes too large and a pale face marked by lack of sleep. But in those eyes there were no longer tears, only a flat determination, like the horizon on a gray day. Mr. Harrington's office was small, tidy, and impersonal. He was a man in his 50s, bald, with tortoiseshell glasses and a suit that was a bit too big for him. He did not look like a movie detective. He looked like a low-level office worker. He inspired confidence. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, offering me a chair. "Please have a seat. You mentioned on the phone that it is a matter of surveillance." "Yes," I replied, sitting up very straight. I placed my purse on my lap like a shield. "My husband, Michael Bennett, an architect, has been traveling frequently to New Orleans. I need to know who he sees, where he goes, who he is with." He nodded, unperturbed, and took out a notepad. "I understand. Any specific suspicions?" "A name, a place." "A name," I said, and the word tasted like ash in my mouth. "Carla. I do not have a last name. And a little girl, her name is Lily. She must be about 6 years old." He jotted it down. His pen made no sound. "Address in New Orleans?" "Office. Places he frequents. He has his architecture studio in the French Quarter. He sometimes stays at the historic Roosevelt Hotel, sometimes in an apartment. I do not know the address. But," I paused, searching for the words, "but I think he spends time in the Bywater. I have heard him mention that neighborhood." "Bywater is large," he murmured, writing again. "But it is a good starting point. A 6-year-old girl. School, extracurricular activities. That usually leaves a trail. And your husband? Does he know you are having him investigated?" "No. And he must not find out, under any circumstances." "Of course. Discretion is our priority." He put down his pen and looked at me through his glasses. His eyes were intelligent and impartial. "Mrs. Bennett, I must ask, are you sure? Once this door is opened, what is behind it is often difficult to forget. Sometimes doubt hurts less than certainty." His warning was kind and professional. It was not the first time he had given it. I took a deep breath. "I already heard the little girl call him Daddy on the phone, Mr. Harrington. The doubt is over. Now I need the certainty to know what I am dealing with so I can decide." He held my gaze for another second, then nodded, as if my answer was the right one, the one he expected. "Very well. We will start immediately." I will need a recent photo of your husband and a written authorization to cover us legally. I will keep you informed. Daily reports if there are developments. And photos if we get them. Photos, I repeated, and a shiver ran down my spine. Yes, I want photos. I left the agency with a knot in my stomach. I had taken the step. There was no turning back. When I got home, Michael's suitcase was gone. The doorman must have collected it, or maybe he had come himself while I was out. The apartment was silent, but it no longer felt like a tomb. I felt the strange agitation of the hunt. The next day, first thing in the morning, I received an email from Mr. Harrington. Subject: Initial report. I opened it with slightly trembling hands. No photos yet, just text. Dry factual. Subject: MB took the morning flight to New Orleans at 9:20 a.m. Taxi from the airport to architecture studio in the French Quarter. Remained there until 2:30 p.m. Lunched alone nearby. At 4 p.m., taxi to Bywater area. Exited on Burgundy Street. Entered residential building number 12. Gate closed. Access not possible. Remained inside for approximately 1 hour. Exited accompanied by woman approximate 30 years old, long brown hair, medium height. They walked toward the river, brief stroll, returned to the building. MB exited alone at 6:45 p.m. Taxi to the Roosevelt Hotel. Checked in. End of surveillance for today. Burgundy Street 12. Bywater. My heart pounded against my ribs. Woman approximate 30 years old, long brown hair. Carla. I had an address, a street, a description. The following days were a slow drip of reports. Michael went back and forth between his studio, the hotel, and Burgundy Street. Sometimes he spent the night at the hotel, other times in the Bywater building. Mr. Harrington was meticulous. He noted times, streets, small details. Subject: purchased flowers from a street stall before entering the building. Subject and woman exited with a girl approximate 6 years old, brown hair, pigtails. Stroll through Washington Square Park. Familial demeanor. Every word was a nail in the coffin of my marriage. Then on a Thursday morning, the first batch of photos arrived. It was a link to an encrypted folder. When I opened it, I could not breathe. The first photo. Michael leaving the entrance of number 12 Burgundy Street. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans and a jacket. He was smiling. Smiling in a way I had not seen in years. Relaxed, genuine. The second. A woman by his side. Carla. She was not a supermodel. She was a normal, pretty woman in a simple way, with wavy brown hair falling over her shoulders, a long skirt and a loose blouse. She was carrying a cloth bag. She was walking, looking at Michael, saying something. He was listening to her, his head tilted. The third. All three of them. Michael, Carla, and between them a little girl. Lily. She was wearing a little red dress and sneakers with lights. She had her mother's hair and Michael's wide, carefree smile. They were each holding one of her hands. The girl was skipping, and they let themselves be swayed by her jumps. It was a photo taken from a distance. But the happiness it conveyed was so palpable it burned my eyes. Closed it. I could not look anymore. I got up and paced the living room in circles like a caged animal. Reading the reports was not enough. Seeing them together like a normal family strolling on a Thursday afternoon, that was different. That killed the last shred of hope. It was then that I made the most impulsive, and perhaps most foolish decision of my life. I could not stay in Chicago waiting for more photos, more reports. I had to see it with my own eyes. I had to put a voice to that woman. Look at that little girl. I had to step onto the soil of their world. I booked a flight for Friday morning. I did not pack much, just a backpack. I did not tell anyone I was leaving. Leaving the airport, the New Orleans air hit me. It was warmer than Chicago, humid, thick with the smells of magnolia, coffee, and the river. I took a taxi, not to a hotel. I gave the address. Burgundy Street, number 12, Bywater. The taxi crossed the bridge over the Mississippi. The Bywater neighborhood stretched out before me with its low houses, colorful facades, and narrow streets. It was a world away from the stately Gold Coast where we lived. It was alive, working class, and noisy. Michael's neighborhood. His other life. I got out of the taxi a block early. I walked, feeling both invisible and absurdly conspicuous. I reached number 12. It was an old 3-story building with a yellow facade and wrought iron balconies full of flower pots. The ground floor was not a residence. It was a workshop. On the wooden door, a ceramic sign hung, Carla's Pottery, and in smaller letters, Carla Moreau. Carla Moreau. She had a full name now. And a trade. A potter. She was not the typical other woman, the secretary, the colleague. She was an artisan with her workshop on the ground floor of her home. I took a deep breath. The smell of wet clay and glaze reached the street. The workshop door was ajar. From outside, I could hear the sound of a potter's wheel, a low, constant hum. I drew closer. The interior was full of light. Shelves were packed with jugs, plates, cups, all with the characteristic sheen of glazed pottery. And in the center, sitting at a wheel, was her. Carla. Her hair was up in a messy bun, her arms smeared with clay up to the elbows, concentrating on the piece spinning between her hands, which lengthened and took the shape of a vase under her skilled fingers. This was not the woman from the photo, dressed up for a walk. This was the real woman, sweaty, strong, absorbed in her work. I stood still in the doorway, watching her. She did not see me at first until, by some instinct, she looked up. Her eyes, a light, direct brown, met mine. The wheel kept spinning, but her hands stopped. The vase deformed slightly. There was no immediate recognition. Why would there be? She did not know me. I was just a stranger at her workshop door. But something in my gaze or my rigid posture must have alerted her. She turned off the wheel with a foot pedal. The resulting silence was sudden and heavy. "Good morning," she asked, wiping her hands on a rag. Her voice was the same one I had heard on the phone, serene, with that warm musical New Orleans accent. But now there was a note of caution in it. I said nothing. I could not. I took a few steps forward, entering the workshop. The smell of clay was stronger. My eyes scanned the place. It was beautiful, messy, alive, full of handmade things. In a corner there was a small space with a low table and some cushions, children's toys scattered about, drawings stuck to the wall with refrigerator magnets. One of them showed 3 figures, one large, one medium, one small, all holding hands, and above it, in clumsy letters, "My family." Carla followed my gaze, and then her expression changed. The caution turned to slow comprehension, and then to something harder. She stood up. She was not very tall, but she had a solid, grounded presence. "Can I help you with something?" she asked again, but this time it was not a shopkeeper's question. It was a challenge. I found my voice. It sounded hoarse, strange even to me. "You are Carla." She did not nod. She did not need to. She crossed her arms, revealing the dried clay stains on her apron. "And you must be Natalie," she said. It was not a question. She knew. She knew the moment she saw me. The fact that she said my name so naturally disconcerted me, as if my existence was not a secret, but a known, accepted fact. "Yes," I confirmed. There was nothing else to say. She nodded slowly. Her eyes scanned me without open hostility, but without kindness either. It was an assessing look from one woman to another. "Michael is not here," she said finally. "He went to Chicago early this morning." "I know," I replied. "I did not come to see Michael." "Ah," she said. A short word full of meaning. She went to a sink and began to wash her hands more carefully, her back to me for a moment. She spoke over the sound of the water. "So what did you come for? To see the other woman? To check out the woman who has been part of this situation?" Her tone was not victimhood. It was ironic, almost defiant. She looked at me again. "I did not steal anything," I said, and was surprised by the firmness in my voice. Because he was not mine to have, apparently. I never had all of him. Carla let out a dry snort, almost a laugh. "Ah, good. So you have talked. I know you found him out. He called last night quite upset. Said he could not go home anymore, that you had kicked him out. And what did you tell him?" I asked, unable to contain myself. "I told him that was a problem between the two of you, that I had nothing to do with it." "You have everything to do with it," I burst out, and the resentment I had been holding back for days came out in a rush. "You have a daughter with him. You have this." I made a wide gesture that encompassed the workshop, the house, the entire life I had before my eyes. She stopped drying her hands. She looked at me intently. I have this because I have worked for it, Mrs. Bennett. With my own hands. This workshop is mine. This house is mine. Michael helps, yes. He pays for things for Lily. But this, her voice hardened too. This is not a gift from him. It is my life. The one I had before he showed up and the one I still have. But he is in it, I retorted. He is part of it. He comes here. He lives here when he is in New Orleans. He is your daughter's father. Yes, she admitted, not looking away. He is my daughter's father, and I am her mother. But we are not husband and wife. We are not a normal family. We are this. What we are. Her bluntness left me speechless. There was no drama in her tone, no pride, not even sadness. Just a fact. A reality. How long? I asked, needing to know everything, needing to fill the gaps of 7 years of lies. How long has this been going on? Carla sighed. She leaned against the edge of the sink. For the first time, I saw a shadow of weariness on her face. How long have we known each other? Forever. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We were teenage sweethearts. He went to Chicago to study, but he would come back. We were young. Then he got a job there, started moving up and changing. Met other people. You. She paused. I knew about you. Not from him, of course. From mutual friends. When I found out he was getting married, I was already pregnant with Lily. I told him. And what did he do? The question came out in a whisper. He panicked. He asked me. He asked me to solve it. That it was not the right time with the engagement, the wedding, his family. That it would be a scandal. There was a hint of old bitterness in her voice. I told him no, that the baby was mine and I was having her. You know Michael. He went to Chicago, he married you. But when Lily was born, he came back. I cannot stay away, he would say. He wanted to be in her life. And I let him. For her. Because a little girl needs a father. Or at least the shadow of one. Her words fell like stones. He went to Chicago, he married you. My wedding, the most important day of my life, had been just a date on the calendar for her. The day the father of her child had left with someone else. So all this time, I began. All this time, she confirmed. He has had 2 lives. The one in Chicago with you and the one here with us. It is not fair, I know. For anyone. But that is how it is. And you never thought to tell me? To tell me the truth? I asked, a note of reproach in my own voice. Carla looked at me as if I had said something incredibly naive. For what? To hurt you? So you would leave him? And then what? Do you think he would have come to me to live happily ever after? She shook her head. No. Michael is not like that. He needs his world in Chicago, his family, his status. He comes here to play at being a normal family, to escape. But in the end he always leaves. He always goes back to you. Or he used to. The use of the past tense did not go unnoticed by either of us. Or he used to. Now everything was broken. And you? Do you love him? The question came from a deep, dark place within me. Carla was silent for a long time. She looked at her hands, still marked by the clay. I did love him, she said finally, softly. A lot. But that was years ago. Now, he is the father of my daughter. He is a habit, a complication. Sometimes when he is here I wonder what I am doing, why I accept this. But then I see Lily run to him when he arrives and, well, he is her father. Her pragmatism disarmed me. There was no romanticism in her words. No great forbidden love. There was custom, convenience, and the well-being of a child. It was much more real, and therefore much more devastating than any story of passion. Just then we heard a noise upstairs. Small running footsteps. Then a little sing-song voice coming down the stairs that must have led to the living quarters. Mommy, I finished my homework. Can I come down? Carla tensed. Her gaze met mine. For an instant I saw something like panic in her eyes. Not the panic of a discovered other woman, but the panic of a mother wanting to protect her child. One moment, sweetie, she called toward the stairs in a forcedly cheerful voice. Then she turned to me and lowered her voice to an urgent whisper. You have to go. Now. Please. I became nervous too. I was not prepared for this, to see her, to face the living embodiment of the little voice on the phone. Is that? I started to say. Yes, it is Lily. And I do not want her to see you. I do not want her to know who you are. Not yet. Please go. Her plea was genuine. I nodded mechanically, turned and walked toward the door. Just as I was stepping out onto the street, I heard the child's footsteps reaching the bottom of the stairs. Mommy? Who was that lady? I did not hear Carla's reply. I closed the workshop door behind me and leaned against the wall, my heart pounding in my chest. The New Orleans afternoon sun hit my face. Blindly I started walking away from Burgundy Street, from the workshop, from the life I had seen inside. Carla's words echoed in my head. I was here first. We grew up together. He went to Chicago, he married you. Each phrase was a piece of the puzzle that had been my marriage. And now finally the picture was clear. And it was much uglier and much sadder than I had ever imagined. There was no villain. There was just another woman trapped in the same lie, and a little girl. A little girl who did her homework and came down the stairs singing, not knowing that her world too was about to break. The flight back to Chicago was a journey through a desolate inner landscape. Carla's words resonated in my head with the monotonous rhythm of the engines. We grew up in the same neighborhood. I was here first. He went to Chicago, he married you. It was not just the infidelity, it was the timeline. It was the certainty that my marriage, from its very first day, had been a building constructed on rotten foundations. And I, blind or willingly naive, had lived in it for 7 years. I arrived at my apartment in the Gold Coast after midnight. The darkness and silence enveloped me like a heavy shroud. I dropped my backpack on the floor and collapsed onto the sofa without turning on the light. On my phone, a notification from the bank. A significant transfer from Michael. For expenses, the description read. His way of buying peace, paying for silence, or perhaps just keeping up appearances for another month. I deleted it. The next day, the outside world burst in with the force of a hammer blow. It was Saturday. At 10 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang, insistent, authoritarian. It was not the gentle ring of a friend. It was the long, firm press of someone demanding to be seen. When I opened the door, I found my brother, Paul. He was impeccable as always in a navy blue suit, but his face, usually serene with an easy smile, was tense, his dark eyes filled with a concern that bordered on fury. Natalie, he said, and without another word, he pulled me into a tight, almost desperate hug. Then he held me by the shoulders, scrutinizing me. My God, you are a wreck. Why did you not call me? Why did I have to find out from that snake of a mother of his? Before I could answer, I heard footsteps on the landing. Paul turned, instinctively placing himself in front of me like a wall. And then she appeared. Eleanor Bennett, my mother-in-law. She was dressed in an immaculate pearl gray, a jacket and skirt ensemble that cost more than half the neighborhood's monthly salary. Her silver hair was swept into a perfect chignon, not a hair out of place. In her leather-gloved hands she carried a designer bag, and in her glacial blue eyes, there was no trace of motherly concern, only a cold assessment, like a general inspecting a battlefield after a defeat. Natalie, she greeted with a minimal nod of her head. Her gaze flickered from me to Paul, whom she measured from head to toe with disdain. Paul, I did not know you would be here. Well, now you know, Mrs. Bennett, Paul replied, not giving an inch. His Napa Valley accent, normally softened, became more pronounced. I am Natalie's brother, and here I am. Evidently, she said, sweeping past us as if we were furniture. She entered the living room, smelling faintly of expensive perfume and superiority. This place looks like a mausoleum. Cannot someone turn on a light? I switched on the lamp. The light revealed the relative disarray of the room, the books still on the floor, the cushions unplumped. Eleanor's eyes registered it all, filing it away as another symptom of the crisis. Sit down, Natalie, she ordered, occupying the main armchair, the one Michael always used. Paul guided me to the sofa, sitting beside me, a solid protective presence. Mrs. Bennett, I do not know why you have come, I began. I have come to bring a bit of sanity to this nightmarish situation, she interrupted, placing the bag on her lap with precision. Michael has been at my house since last night, a complete wreck. He is not eating, not sleeping. He has told me about the foolishness that has occurred. Foolishness. I repeated, and I felt Paul take my hand, squeezing it as a warning. What else would you call it? She said, raising a perfectly shaped eyebrow. A man, a husband, comes home from a business trip, tired, irritable, and instead of being received with understanding, with affection, you hurl a serious accusation at him and throw him out of his own house. In the middle of the night. The cynicism of her narrative left me breathless. She had completely rewritten it, turning Michael into the victim and me into the hysterical wife. It was not an accusation, Mrs. Bennett. It was the truth, I said, my voice sounding firmer than I expected. Michael has another woman in New Orleans and a 6-year-old daughter. A thick silence fell. Paul beside me held his breath. He had only known there was a crisis but not the details. Now he had them. His hand squeezed mine tighter. Eleanor did not flinch. Not a muscle in her face moved. She simply tilted her head as if I had said Michael preferred fish to meat. That is what he told you in a moment of extreme tension, of outburst. Men, when they feel cornered, say foolish things. They are not foolish things, I burst out, standing up. I spoke with her. I saw her. Her name is Carla Moreau. She lives in Bywater. She has a daughter named Lily. Michael admitted it. For the first time, something flickered in Eleanor's eyes. It was not surprise, it was annoyance. A deep annoyance, as if a servant had broken a valuable piece of porcelain. Carla Moreau, she repeated, pronouncing the name as if it had a bad taste. I imagined it was that name. You knew? I asked, freezing on the spot. You knew. She sighed, a sigh of profound, exhausted patience. Natalie, darling, please sit down. This is no way to behave. Answer me. Did you know? I knew, she said with exasperation, that Michael had in his youth, before he was engaged to you, certain attachments from his time in New Orleans. People from the neighborhood. Nothing serious. His father and I believed all of that was behind him when he came to Chicago, when he began to build a future, when he met you. When he made a suitable marriage. Every word was a lash. Attachments. People from the neighborhood. Nothing serious. A suitable marriage. My marriage was just that, something suitable, a social transaction. And Carla and Lily were just a youthful attachment, people of a lower class who were meant to be left behind. A 6-year-old daughter is not nothing serious, Mrs. Bennett, Paul said, speaking for the first time. His voice was low but charged with a contained anger I recognized from our childhood. She is a person, and my sister has every right to feel betrayed. Eleanor directed her icy gaze toward Paul. Paul, I understand you want to defend your sister. It is laudable. But this is a family matter. A matter for the Bennett family, and the Thompson family, of course, she added as a dismissive afterthought. And it must be resolved with discretion and a clear head, not with drama and public scandals. And how is it resolved, Mrs. Bennett? I asked, sitting back down. My legs felt shaky. By pretending nothing happened? By letting Michael continue to go to New Orleans to visit his family, while I stay here playing the happy wife in Chicago. Do not be melodramatic, Natalie, she snapped impatiently. Michael has made a mistake. A serious mistake, yes. A youthful indiscretion that has had unexpected consequences. But he is your husband. You are husband and wife before the law. And marriages, real marriages, overcome these things. They forgive. They move on. Indiscretion, Paul muttered, shaking his head. Eleanor ignored him. She focused on me with the intensity of a hawk. Listen to me, Natalie. Be reasonable. Michael is an important man. He has a career, a reputation, a family name to protect. This woman, this child. They are a problem. A problem that can be managed discreetly with money if necessary. But what cannot be done is to throw away 7 years of marriage, a union between two respectable families, over a fit of wounded pride. Eleanor's world was simple. Everything boiled down to reputation, family names, and money. Pain, betrayal, broken love, those were fits, melodramas, things for people with no class. It is not wounded pride, I said, fighting to stay calm. It is that I do not love him anymore. Or maybe I never did. Maybe I just loved the idea of what he represented. And now that idea has been shattered. Eleanor rolled her eyes. Love. Always with the love. Love is a very poor foundation for a marriage, Natalie. Respect, duty, shared interests, that is what endures. You and Michael have a wonderful life. A magnificent apartment, social standing, a secure future. Are you going to throw all of that away out of jealousy for some Potter from Bywater and her child? The word child echoed in the room with heavy weight. Paul shot to his feet. That is enough. Do not speak that way about an innocent child, and do not speak to my sister that way. Paul, please, I said, touching his arm. I knew Eleanor was trying to provoke us to get under our skin. I took a deep breath. Mrs. Bennett, with all due respect, my marriage to Michael ended the moment I learned the truth. There is no going back. You can think whatever you like. I have made my decision. Her expression hardened even more. The mask of condescension fell away, revealing the steel beneath. A decision. And what decision is that, if I may ask? Divorce. She pronounced the word as if it were a contagious disease. Do you have any idea what that would mean? The scandal. The press. Our families put on display. The Thompsons, with all due respect, are not immune to gossip. Your father, with his vineyards. Do you think his clients will enjoy being associated with a man tainted by a scandalous divorce? And what will you do? Go back to Napa Valley to Daddy's arms? A failed divorcee. Every phrase was a low blow, calculated to wound, to frighten. She was playing on my deepest fears. The fear of disappointing my family, my father, who had invested so much in my good marriage. The fear of loneliness, of social shame. My sister is not a failure, Paul intervened, standing tall beside me. And my father will be proud of her, no matter what she does. We are not afraid of what a few snooty Chicago socialites might say. Eleanor managed a cold smile. Very noble, Paul. Very romantic. But the real world does not run on romanticism. Natalie, think with your head, not with your heart. Michael is repentant. He is devastated. He is willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. He will cut off all contact with that woman. He will provide for the child, of course, discreetly, but he will end that relationship. He will come home to you. You can start over. More carefully, of course. Perhaps even have children. That always helps to mend a marriage. The blow was so low, so unexpected, it knocked the wind out of me. I staggered and Paul caught my arm. What did you say? I whispered. A cold, surgical compassion. Come now, Natalie. Do not tell me you did not know, that you have not thought about it. 7 years of marriage, no children. The doctors told you after that unfortunate incident that it was unlikely but not impossible. That with patience, with care. Michael has never pressured you. He has been a gentleman. But a child unites. Creates a bond. Seals things. With a child, all of this would become a bad memory. The tears I had held back with such effort since New Orleans burst from my eyes. They were not tears of sadness, but of helpless rage, of humiliation. My loss, my most private pain, she was using it as a weapon, as an incentive. Have a child and forgive your husband's betrayal. Get out, Paul said, his voice trembling with fury. Get out of this house right now. Eleanor did not move. She looked at me, ignoring him. Think about it, Natalie. Think about your future, your family's future. Do not make a stupid decision out of pride. Pride is a luxury that women like us cannot afford. She stood up, imperceptibly straightening her jacket. She picked up her bag. Michael will stay at his parents' house for a few days to give you both some space. He will call you. I hope that when he does, you will be more willing to be reasonable. And without waiting for a reply, she walked out of the living room. We heard the click of the front door closing. The silence she left behind was absolute. Paul hugged me, and I fell apart against his shoulder, sobbing. Not just for Michael, for Carla, for the little girl. I sobbed for myself, for the naive woman I had been, who had believed in a fairy tale. For the suffocating pressure of appearances. For my own body, which had become yet another battlefield in this difficult situation. I am sorry, Nat, Paul murmured, stroking my hair. I am so sorry. You should not have had to hear that. She is a difficult woman. She is right, I said between sobs, pulling away slightly. About the family. About Dad. Dad will take your side, Paul exclaimed, holding me by the shoulders. Do you think he would rather see his daughter trapped in a marriage of lies with a man who has been unfaithful for years, just to look good for a few winemakers and that snob Mrs. Perfect? For God's sake, Natalie, you are his daughter. He loves you. At that moment my phone rang. It was my mother. She must have spoken to Paul. I answered, putting it on speaker. My mother Connie's voice came through, full of anguish. Natalie, darling, are you okay? Paul told me. My God, I cannot believe it. That man. And his mother, that harpy. She wants to buy you off with a baby? Do they have no soul? The unconditional support from my mother, her rage on my behalf, was a bomb. I cried again, but this time with relief. Mom, I do not know what to do, I confessed. First thing, get out of that apartment, she said with the practical firmness of the countrywoman she was. Do not stay there with his ghosts. Come home. To Napa Valley. Or go with Paul. But get out of there. She is right, Nat, Paul nodded. Come stay with Elena and me. The girls miss you. It will do you good. And your father, my mother continued with a hint of worry, wants to talk to you. He called his father Mr. Bennett Sr. They shouted a bit, I am afraid. Your father is very upset, but he supports you, darling. Never doubt it. He says to do what your heart tells you, and he will take care of the rest. My father, Anthony Thompson, a man of few words and strong convictions. Knowing he was there, furious for me, willing to stand up even to the powerful Bennetts, gave me new strength. Thanks, Mom, I said, wiping my tears. Tell Dad. Tell him I will come to Napa Valley soon. But first I have to do something here. I hung up, wiped my face and looked at Paul. You are right. I cannot stay here. But I am not going to Napa Valley yet, or to your house. What? Why? Where will you go? Here in Chicago. But I need to be alone. I need to think. And I need to find something. Find what? I took a deep breath. Eleanor's attack, with her mention of children of my situation, had stirred something. A distant memory, a piece of paper. A suspicion I had buried years ago in the bottom of a drawer because I had not dared to face it. Proof, I said, and my voice sounded strangely serene. I need to find my own proof of everything. Paul stayed with me that night. He insisted. He slept on the living room sofa, a protective and familiar presence in the darkness. The next morning, after a strong, silent coffee, he left for work, but not before making me promise to call if I needed anything. Anything, Nat. Any time. I nodded. I watched him leave with both relief and sadness. His support was my only anchor, but it also reminded me how alone I was at the bottom of this pit. As soon as he was gone, the cold, determined energy from the day before took hold of me again. Eleanor had tried to scare me with the future, with gossip, with my own body. But her words, instead of breaking me, had lit a fuse. If my marriage had been a sham, I needed to understand all its mechanisms. Not just Carla's story, but my own. Why had I been blind for so long? And above all, I needed proof. Tangible things that would confirm I was not crazy, that I was not some hysterical wife inventing drama. Proof I could hold in my hand when, not if but when, I had to face the Bennetts again, or a lawyer, or the mirror. I started in Michael's study, a small room lined with oak shelves and an imposing desk. His sanctuary. I rarely went in there. It was his space. Another unwritten boundary that now seemed like a red flag. Everything was impeccable as always. Alphabetized file cabinets, architecture books, rolled up blueprints. I started with the desk drawers. Invoices, receipts, studio documents, contracts. All legitimate, boring, fitting for a successful businessman. Nothing personal. Michael was careful. Or at least he was in Chicago. I then remembered what Carla had said. He needs his world in Chicago. In his Chicago world, he was the respectable architect, the husband. His secrets were kept in New Orleans. But there had to be something. A loose thread. Crack. I sat in his leather chair, which creaked under my weight. It smelled of him. My gaze roamed the room, the shelves, the books. And then on the highest shelf, almost touching the ceiling, I saw something that did not fit. A box. Not a modern file box, but a cardboard box like a shoebox, but larger, older, light brown, worn at the corners. It was half hidden behind a row of heavy tomes on building regulations. My heart began to beat faster. I climbed the small ladder he used to reach the high books. The box was covered in a thin layer of dust. I brought it down carefully. It was light. I took it to the desk. When I opened it, the smell of old paper and closeted memories hit me. There was no jewelry, no money, no compromising photos. Just papers, letters, envelopes, and in a plastic tray my old medical file. The first thing I picked up was an envelope. No return address, but the postmark was from New Orleans. The handwriting was feminine, round with generous curves. It was addressed to Michael Bennett, Architecture Studio, French Quarter. The date on the postmark, 7 years ago. 1 month before our wedding. My hands began to tremble. I took out the letter. A sheet of graph paper torn from a notepad. The blue ink slightly faded. Michael, I do not even know where to begin. Oh yes, I do. At the beginning. The last time I saw you here at the workshop when you told me you had to go to Chicago, that it was a great opportunity. You did not tell me the opportunity was a woman. I found out from friends that you are getting married. To a girl from Napa Valley, from a winemaking family. Natalie is her name. A pretty name. I am not going to be dramatic. I know us was never really us for you the way it was for me. For you it was your New Orleans life, the before. I knew that. But I thought when my father passed, when you were by my side, I thought it meant something more. I was wrong. I am writing to you because of the baby. Yes, Michael, I am 12 weeks pregnant. The doctor gave me the results yesterday. I thought about not telling you, about letting you go off to your happy wedding, your new life. But I cannot. It is not fair to me or to this child. I am not asking you to marry me. God forbid. I do not want a husband out of obligation. But you have to know. You have to decide what you are going to do. If you are going to be in its life, or if you are going to cross the bridge and never look back. Do not call me at the workshop. Do not say anything on the phone. If you want to talk, come. If you do not come, fine. But answer this letter. At least answer me. Carla. I laid the letter on the desk. There was no air in the room. The date danced before my eyes. 1 month before our wedding. He knew. He knew everything. When he was kneeling at the altar exchanging the 13 coins, he knew Carla was pregnant. When he promised me fidelity, he knew he had left a pregnant woman in New Orleans. When he said, I do, he was saying no to his own child. A pure white-hot rage washed over me. I grabbed another envelope, more recent, from about 4 years ago. Another woman's handwriting, but different, more childish, with drawings of flowers around the border. It was from Lily, a letter from a little girl 2 or 3 years old then. Colored scribbles, and below, Carla's clumsy handwriting translating. Dear Daddy, I miss you. Mommy says you work a lot in Chicago. Come soon. I love you. You're Lily. And there were more. Postcards from New Orleans. Photos. Photos of the baby girl, of the girl learning to walk, of the girl on her first day of school. Michael was in some of them, smiling, holding Lily in his arms. They were family photos. His family. And letters from Carla over the years. Not many, one every year or two. Brief, practical. They talked about money, school expenses, the girl's health. Michael, Lily needs glasses. The optometrist costs this much. Michael, the boiler is broken. I cannot pay the plumber. Michael, thanks for the transfer. Lily asks when you are coming. They were the letters of a woman managing child support, not a passionate lover. But in all of them at the end there was a small reminder. She misses you. Never I miss you. Michael had kept them all. Why? Out of guilt? As trophies of his double life? Or as a record, proof of his obligations? I reached the bottom of the box, and there, separately wrapped in a silk scarf, was a bundle of letters tied with a ribbon. They were the oldest, the paper more yellowed. I untied them with numb fingers. The handwriting was Michael's. Young, less confident. Love letters addressed to Carla. Dated over 10 years ago. My Carla, the workshop smells of you, of clay and magnolia. Chicago is gray without you. These architecture studies mean nothing if I cannot tell you about them. Darling, last night I dreamed of the river, of you, of staying here making pots and having a tribe of dark-haired children like you. My father says I need to focus, that this Bywater thing is a whim. But you are not a whim. You are the most real thing I have. I read fragments, random pieces. Every word was a knife. They were the letters of a young man in love, a dreamer. A man I had never known. My Michael was the mature, confident, slightly cynical architect. This Michael from the letters, Carla had kept him. Or rather, the past had kept him. And when that past presented him with the bill in the form of a pregnancy, he had fled. To Chicago. To me. I put the letters away. I could not read any more. I was falling apart inside. But I had to continue. There, in the plastic tray, was my medical file. I took it out. It was from my old gynecologist. I opened it. Reports from routine checkups, blood tests. And then the thickest report, the one from the pregnancy. 21-week pregnancy. Intrauterine fetal demise. The cold, clinical phrases could not hide the pain that still throbbed when I read them. It was a boy. Michael, and I had secretly named him Daniel. We had never said it out loud. I turned the pages. Reports from the procedure. Follow-up reports. Patient with a history of second trimester loss. Cause not fully determined, possible cervical incompetence. Recommend in-depth study in future pregnancy with preventative measures and absolute bed rest. And then I found a page I did not remember. A report from a hormonal analysis ordered months after the loss. I had requested it, desperate for an explanation, for something to hold on to. The levels were marked with a yellow highlighter by the doctor, and in the margin, her handwritten note, in that illegible doctor's script that I nonetheless managed to decipher because I had stared at it obsessively for weeks. Notably low progesterone levels in luteal phase, consistent with severe, sustained stress. Evaluate patient's emotional context, could be a contributing factor in loss. Severe, sustained stress. The phrase hit me. I remembered those months. Michael was immersed in a big project in New Orleans. Of course. He was traveling constantly. I was alone in Chicago in this enormous apartment, with my advancing pregnancy, with a dull premonition that something was wrong. I would call him. Sometimes he would not answer. He would say he was in meetings at the construction site. I worried, I became anxious, I cried, I was scared. Scared of being a mother, scared something would go wrong, scared of the distance that was growing between us, even before the baby was born. What if it was not just bad luck? What if it was not just my body that failed? What if the severe sustained stress had a name and a face? What if the fear and loneliness I felt, while he divided his time between his studio and his budding other family, contributed to me losing our son? It was not fair. I could not put all the blame on him, but the connection was too painful, too clear. His double life, his lies, his absence had poisoned my pregnancy. They had created the stress that perhaps helped to take my son from me. A dry sob tore through my throat. I clutched the file to my chest. The love letters to Carla, the medical reports of my loss, it was all connected. His lie had not just destroyed my marriage, it might have destroyed my only chance to be a mother. The phone vibrated on the desk. It was Michael. I looked at it. The name flashed on the screen. The rage I felt then had no name. It was a hurricane of pain, of betrayal, of a resentment I did not know I could harbor. I picked up the phone not to talk but to send a message. My fingers flew over the screen, cold and precise. Do not call. Do not come. I found the box. Carla's letters. The ones from before our wedding. The one from when she was pregnant. You knew. You knew everything. I also found my medical reports. The one about the stress. Now I understand everything. I do not want to see you. Not now. Maybe never. I sent it. Immediately the screen showed he was typing. Incoming call. I rejected it. He called again. I rejected it again. A third attempt. I let it ring until it stopped. Then a message from him. Natalie, please, we have to talk. Those letters are not what they seem. Let me explain, for the love of God. I replied with a calm that scared even me. Explain what? That you kept letters from your pregnant other woman as a souvenir? Or that my loss was the fault of the stress you yourself created? There is no explanation. Only facts. Leave me alone. His reply took a minute. I'm coming over now. We have to talk face to face. Panic. I could not see him. Not yet. Not with the rage so fresh. With the letters scattered on the table. With the image of his young handwriting declaring love for another woman burning in my mind. I ran to the front door and threw the deadbolt. Then the chain. I leaned against the wood, panting. The doorbell rang 10 minutes later. Long, insistent. Natalie, open up, please. I know you are in there. Open the door. His voice on the other side was harsh, desperate. I had never heard him like this. Go away, Michael, I said, not raising my voice, knowing he would hear me through the door. I am not leaving until we talk. Please let me in. For what? To feed me more lies? To tell me everything has an explanation? I have read the letter, Michael. The one from 7 years ago. You knew she was pregnant when you married me. You lied to me. You have lied to me every single day for these 7 years. There was a silence. Then his voice lower, broken. Yes. Yes, I knew. And it was the biggest mistake of my life. I swear to you. But it was not like you think. It was not. It was not a choice. It was panic cowardice. I am sorry. I am sorrier than I can say. Your cowardice cost me 7 years of my life. And it might have cost me my son, I said, my voice breaking on the last word. What? No, Natalie, do not say that. That is not fair. What is not fair? I screamed, slamming my palm against the door. You are talking to me about justice? You had another family while I was here waiting, trusting, losing our baby. You had a healthy daughter in New Orleans. Can you imagine what that is like? Have you ever imagined it once? The silence on the other side was absolute. I could only hear his ragged breathing. No. I never thought of it like that. I never wanted to hurt you. Not you. Well, you did. And the damage is done. Now go away. I do not want to hear your voice. I do not want to see you. If you do not leave, I am calling the police. Natalie. Go away. There was another longer silence. Then I heard his footsteps moving away down the hall, slow, shuffling. I listened until they faded. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the floor of the entryway. The tears would not come anymore. Just a vast emptiness, a bone-deep exhaustion. I looked toward the study, toward the open box on the desk. There was the proof, the complete history of his betrayal, handwritten with dates, with names. There was no more doubt. There was no more room for forgiveness, or for the half measures Eleanor had proposed. My marriage was dead. Now all that was left was to bury it. And for that, I needed more than old letters. I needed a plan. I needed, for the first time in 7 years, to take control of my own life. I stood up, went to the study, and with hands that no longer trembled, I carefully packed everything back into the box. The love letters, Lily's photos, my medical file. Closed it. It was no longer just a box of memories. It was my arsenal. A week after finding the box, I was back on a flight to New Orleans. This time it was not an impulsive trip. It was a mission. Eleanor's visit, the letters, the medical reports, it had all accumulated into a slab of rage and determination. Knowing was not enough anymore. I had to act. And for that, I needed to talk to the only person who truly understood the magnitude of the lie, Carla. I did not call her. I simply took the 9 a.m. flight. In my purse, I carried copies of the most revealing letters, not as a weapon but as proof, as a common ground of betrayal. The landscape sped by below, but I no longer saw it. I mentally rehearsed what I would say. I arrived at Burgundy Street shortly after noon. The workshop was open. I could hear the same hum of the potter's wheel. This time I did not linger at the door. I pushed it open and walked in. Carla was in the same spot, shaping a large bowl. She looked up, did not seem surprised, just turned off the wheel with the foot pedal and wiped her hands on her apron. Her expression was serene but tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. You came back, she said simply. We need to talk, I replied without preamble. For real. No rush. Without Lily showing up. She studied my face. I must have looked different to her, harder, more confident. She nodded. She is at school until 5. We have time. She got up and went to a small stack of water bottles, pulling out 2. Water. I accepted. I took a sip. The workshop was warm from the morning sun. Michael came to Chicago, I said bluntly. To my door. I did not let him in. Carla nodded again as if she knew. He called me. Very agitated. Said you had found old things. I found a box with letters. Your letters. The first one, the one you wrote when you were pregnant. 1 month before our wedding. A flash of pain crossed her face. She looked down. Ah, that one. I had forgotten about it. I have not, I said, pulling the copy from my purse. I unfolded it and placed it on a table cluttered with pottery tools. I have read it dozens of times. You have to decide what you are going to do. If you are going to be in its life, or if you are going to cross the bridge and never look back. He decided. He married me. And then when Lily was born, he decided to cross the bridge back and forth. Every few weeks. Carla did not touch the letter. She looked at it as if it were a relic from another life. Yes. That was his decision. And yours? I asked, stepping closer. Why did you accept it? Why did you let him walk in and out of your lives for 6 years? For money. She looked up and for the first time I saw fire in her eyes. No. Not for money. Or not just. At first, because he was my daughter's father and I still believed there could be something. That maybe with time. She broke off and let out a bitter laugh. How naive. Then when I saw that was not going to happen, that he always left, that his real life was in Chicago with his elegant wife, I stayed for Lily. Because she adores him. Because for her, her daddy is a hero who comes to visit. What was I supposed to tell her? That her father had abandoned us for a woman with more status. I had no idea, I said, my voice sounding harsh. For 7 years I had no idea. I thought I was happy. Or at least not completely miserable. I did, she said softly. I knew about you. Your name, where you were from, that you had a big church wedding. Sometimes at night when he was here I would think about you. What you were like. If you were happy. If you knew what a good actor he was. Her words hit me hard. The two of us in different cities had been living parallel lives, each trapped in her own version of Michael's lie. I was not happy, I confessed, and it was liberating to say it. Or not completely. There was always something. A distance. A phone he did not answer. Unexpected trips. I thought it was work. That it was me. That maybe I was not enough. I thought the same thing, Carla murmured. That if I had been more, if I had come from a family like yours, things would have been different. We looked at each other. For a moment the enmity, the rage, dissolved. All that remained were two women, absurdly linked by the same man and his cowardice. His mother came to see me, I said, breaking the silence. Eleanor. She wanted me to forgive him, to take him back. To try to have a child, to weld the marriage together. Carla rolled her eyes. That woman is from another century. And what did you tell her? That I would not. But it is not enough to just say no. He is not going to give up easily. Neither will his family. To them I am a problem to be managed. And you and Lily are a shameful secret to be kept hidden. We are trapped in his game. And the only way out is to change the rules. Carla crossed her arms, leaning against the table. What do you mean? I mean Michael cannot have both anymore. He cannot jump from one life to the other as if it is nothing. He has to make a real choice. And we have to force that choice. Together. She looked at me skeptically. Together? You and me? What are you proposing? An ultimatum. Exactly, I nodded. You and I, the two of us, have to present a united front. Tell him this situation is over, that he has to make a clear decision and live with the consequences. He will never choose, Carla said with sad certainty. Choosing means losing something, and Michael does not like to lose. He will choose the option that gives him the least trouble, which now is probably you. Because of his family, his status. Maybe, I admitted. But if the two of us make it clear that option no longer exists, that I will not take him back under any circumstances, then he will be left without his Chicago refuge. And he will have to face what he really wants, or at least what he is willing to take on. Carla considered this. Her gaze drifted to the shelves filled with pottery. And if he chooses this? Us? What do you gain? My freedom, I answered without hesitation. The chance for a life without lies. A clean divorce, or as clean as it can be. And the certainty that I am not abandoning another woman to stay trapped in the same thing. If he chooses you, it will be a choice, not a hiding place. And you can decide if you really want him, knowing there is no other missus in Chicago. And what if I do not want him, even if he chooses me? She asked, looking up. Her question was sincere, not a provocation. Then you will be free too. You can kick him out and get on with your life without his shadow coming and going whenever it suits him. A long silence fell. We could hear the sounds of the street, a passing motorcycle, women chatting. Normal life outside. Okay, Carla said at last. Okay. How do we do it? We meet with him, both of us. Here. In New Orleans. Where it all began. We tell him to come and we drop it on him both at the same time? She asked with a slight smile. That will give him a heart attack. Maybe he deserves it, I said, unable to avoid a hint of bitterness. Just then we heard the street door open. A sing-song voice filled the workshop. Mommy, I am home. Carla tensed. I turned. Lily came running in with her school backpack on, her hair messy. She was with an older woman, the neighbor, who must have picked her up. Seeing me, the girl stopped short. Her big brown eyes, just like her mother's, fixed on me with curiosity. Hi, sweetie, Carla said, forcing a cheerful tone. How was school? Good, Lily said, but she did not take her eyes off me. I recognize your face. You are the lady from the other day. The neighbor, a plump woman in an apron, looked from Carla to me with undisguised curiosity. Another one of Michael's messes, she must have thought. Carla thanked her, and the woman left, but not without a final glance. Lily, honey, go upstairs for a minute. I need to talk to this lady, Carla said. But Lily did not move. She kept looking at me with the disarming frankness of children. You are the one who came the other day, she stated. Yes, I said, surprised by my own gentle voice. I am Natalie. Are you my mommy's friend? Carla and I exchanged a look. Not exactly, I replied. We have just recently met. And my daddy's? Lily asked without blinking. Do you know my daddy? The air grew thick. Carla made a move to step between us, but I shot her a look. It was a direct question. It deserved a direct answer, or as direct as one could give a 6-year-old. Yes, I said, crouching down a little to be at her level. I know him. Is it true he is very angry? Lily asked, her little face wrinkling with worry. My mommy has been sad. And last night Daddy called and they started talking, and Mommy yelled at him. She said she was fed up, that she could not take it anymore. I got scared and hid in the closet. Carla closed her eyes, a gesture of pain. I felt a pang in my heart. Sometimes grown-ups get angry, I said, choosing my words carefully. About important things. But it is not your fault, okay? Your daddy and your mommy have to talk about some things. Why are you angry with him too? Lily insisted, with a perception that was almost frightening. Yes, I admitted. I am angry with him too. Why? Did he make you cry too? The simplicity of the question left me breathless. I nodded, unable to speak. Lily nodded seriously, as if she had just confirmed a great truth about the world. He makes my mommy cry sometimes too. But not in front of me. She does it at night. I hear her. Then when he comes he brings presents and we play and mommy seems happy. But it is like the drawings I make and then erase. The mark stays behind. Carla let out a choked sob and brought a hand to her mouth. I felt my own eyes well up with tears. This child saw everything, understood everything in her own way. Lily, sweetie, Carla said, regaining her voice. Go upstairs, please. I will come up later and we will do homework together. Is Daddy coming soon? The girl asked, and there was a note of hope in her voice that was heartbreaking. Carla looked at me. I shrugged, leaving the decision to her. I do not know, honey, Carla said with an honesty that must have cost her a great deal. But whatever happens, you and I are always okay. Okay, Lily nodded, though she did not seem entirely convinced. She turned and started slowly up the stairs. Halfway up she stopped and turned back. Mrs. Natalie, she said. Yes, Lily. If you are angry with my daddy, are you his daughter too? The innocent, devastating question echoed in the workshop like a bell. Carla held her breath. I leaned on the table to keep from falling. How could I answer that? How could I explain to a child what a wife was and other woman a man who divided his life? No, I managed to say, my throat tight. I am not his daughter. I was his friend from a long time ago. And now we are angry. Lily seemed to process this, then nodded, as if that explanation, however vague, was enough for her. Well, when you stop being angry, you could come over and play. I have a new horse puzzle. My daddy does not like puzzles. He says they are boring. And with that, she continued up the stairs and disappeared. The silence she left behind was different. The air had been cleared of adult tension, but it was filled with the raw, unfiltered truth of a child. Carla wiped away a furtive tear. My God, she murmured. She hears everything. She senses everything. She has both of us, I said, and it was the most logical, the saddest conclusion. Both of us crying over the same man. That is too heavy a burden for such small shoulders. Carla nodded, her eyes shining. You are right. This cannot go on. For her sake. It has to end. She took a deep breath. Okay. You call him or I will call him. Have him come and we will tell him. Together. Are you sure? I asked, even though it was what I had come for. I have never been more sure of anything. After hearing her, yes. He has to choose or leave. But this situation is over. We both took out our phones, but it was Carla who dialed. She put it on speaker. It rang twice before he answered. Carla. His voice came through, tired, tense. Is everything okay? Is something wrong with Lily? Lily is fine. But we need you to come to New Orleans. Now. Now? That is impossible. I have. Michael, I interrupted, speaking clearly into the phone. It is Natalie. I am here in the workshop with Carla. And we need to see you. Both of us. There was such a profound silence on the other end that I thought the line had disconnected. Natalie? What? What are you doing there? What is going on? What is going on is that the two of us have already talked, I said, keeping my voice firm. And we have come to an agreement. You need to come and hear it in person. What kind of agreement? His voice was a thread filled with panic. The kind that is going to end this situation once and for all, Carla said, taking over. You get on the next flight or you get in your car. But you be here tonight. Or else I will make my own decisions about Lily, and you are not going to like them. It was a bluff, but it worked. We could hear his agitated breathing. Okay. I will come. I am leaving now. I will be there around 8. We will be waiting, Carla said and hung up. She placed the phone on the table. The two of us looked at each other. We were not friends. Maybe we never would be. But at that moment we were allies. Two generals preparing for the final battle against a common enemy. A little over 5 hours left, I said. Yes, Carla nodded. She looked toward the stairs, toward where her daughter was. Just enough time to make her dinner, put her to bed, and get ready to face what comes next. The night of the confrontation with Michael was a hurricane of voices, accusations, and tears. He arrived at the workshop on Burgundy Street shortly after 8, pale, his tie undone. Seeing Carla and me together, sitting side by side on the low stools of the workshop, was a blow from which he never recovered. The conversation was brutal. We laid out chronologically, with the coldness of two prosecutors, the architecture of his lie. The letters, the dates, the trips, the pain intuited by his daughter, my loss, the sham of our marriage. Michael fell apart, not with rage, but with a profound exhaustion, as if the weight of leading two lives for years had finally broken his back. He shouted, he defended himself, he cried, but against the unexpected alliance of the two women he had lied to. His arguments dissolved like sugar in water. There was no decision that night, only an ultimatum. He had 1 week, 7 days to choose which life he wanted, knowing that the other door would close forever, and that whatever he chose, nothing would ever be the same. When I left the workshop, the New Orleans night was warm and sweet. Carla stayed inside with Michael, who was still sitting on the floor, his head in his hands. I felt no pity for him, just a vast emptiness. I went up to my hotel room near the French Quarter and collapsed on the bed, exhausted. I had won a battle, but the war was not yet over. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window. My phone was silent. No message from Michael, none from Carla. The silence was strange, oppressive. I could not stay in the room. I needed to move, to think. And without quite knowing why, my feet led me back to Bywater, not to the workshop, but to the bridge over the Mississippi. I stood in the middle, leaning on the railing, watching the slow, wide river. The brown water reflected the intense blue sky. Mrs. Natalie. The little voice startled me. I turned. There, beside me, holding the hand of an older woman I recognized as the neighbor from the other day, was Lily. She was wearing a little yellow dress and a unicorn backpack. Her big eyes looked at me with curiosity. "Hello, Lily," I said, surprised. I smiled at the neighbor, who was watching me with suspicion. "Good morning," the woman said. "The girls saw you and wanted to say hello. We are on our way to the park. Can I go with Mrs. Natalie?" Lily asked, letting go of the neighbor's hand and taking mine with a naturalness that left me breathless. "Oh, Lily, I do not know," I began, looking at the neighbor, who shrugged. "It is fine by me if the lady does not mind. But your mother told me to take you to the park and back home." "I will take her," I said, almost without thinking. The idea of spending time with this child, who was both the symbol of my pain and an innocent creature, was suddenly necessary. "Then I will take her home. I promise." The neighbor hesitated but finally nodded. "She lives at number 12 Burgundy. You know." She left, but not without giving me one last warning glance. I was left alone with Lily, whose warm, small hand was still in mine. She looked at me seriously. "Are we going to the park?" she asked. "If you want," I replied. We crossed the bridge to the Bywater side. We walked in silence for a while. She was skipping on the cobblestones, avoiding the cracks. "My daddy came last night," she said suddenly, not looking at me. "I know," I said carefully. "He was talking with my mommy." I heard voices, but they were not fighting voices. They were sad. Sad. That was the exact word. There were no shouts at the end, just a pain-filled exhaustion. "Sometimes grown-ups talk about sad things," I said, feeling clumsy. "Is that why my mommy was crying this morning?" she asked, and this time she lifted her enormous eyes to me. There was genuine concern in them and something more, a need to understand. I stopped. We had entered Washington Square Park. The trees provided shade, and some children were running around the swings. "Lily, your mommy loves you very much. And sometimes when we are sad we cry. But it is not because of you. It is never because of you." "I know," she said with a maturity beyond her years. "It is because of Daddy. It is always because of Daddy. When he comes, Mommy is happy for a few days and then she gets nervous. And when he leaves, she gets sad. It is like a roller coaster, but without the fun part." Her analogy was so precise it hurt. She sat on a bench and I sat beside her. She put her backpack at her feet. "Are you on the roller coaster too?" she asked. I looked at her. Her brown eyes, so alive, so full of intelligence, were waiting for a real answer. I could not lie to her. Not like the adults around her had for years. "Yes," I admitted. "I have been on that roller coaster too. But I have decided to get off." She frowned, thinking. "And can my mommy get off too?" "That is what she has to decide." Lily nodded as if my answer made sense. She took a water bottle from her backpack and had a sip. "I like it when my daddy comes. He plays with me. He makes me laugh. But he always leaves. And my mommy does not like me to get my hopes up. She says you should not expect anything. That way you do not get disappointed." She paused. "But it is hard not to expect anything because he is my daddy." Every word from this child was a dart. She spoke of absence, of disappointment, of conditional love, with the devastating simplicity of someone who has known nothing else. "Your daddy loves you, Lily," I said. And it was true. In the photos, in his voice when he spoke of her, you could tell. But sometimes grown-ups are complicated. And we hurt people without meaning to. Or meaning to, she finished, with a look so perceptive it made me shiver. Then her expression changed, lit up by an idea. "Do you want to see where I like to hide?" "Sure." She led me down a narrow path between bushes to a small clearing hidden behind a large hedge. There on the ground was a fort made of branches and stones. Her hideout. I come here when my parents talk with those voices, she said, sitting on the ground inside her fort. You cannot hear anything here. Just the birds. I sat beside her on the dirt. The place was quiet, secluded. A refuge. It is a good hideout, I said. Yes. I draw here. She took a notebook and a box of worn-colored pencils from her backpack. She opened it. The pages were filled with drawings. Most of them showed 3 figures, a tall one Michael, a medium one Carla, and a small one her. But in some there were only 2 figures, her mother and her. In others, her father and her. And in a recent one there were 3 figures again, but the one in the middle was different, thinner, with longer hair. It was me. I recognized my dress, the one I wore to the workshop the first time. The 3 of us were holding hands, and a sun was smiling in the corner. I pointed to the drawing. That is me. She nodded, a little embarrassed. I put you in because now you are in the daddy stuff too. And my mommy does not cry alone anymore. She talks to you. That is good, right? The lump in my throat was so big I could not speak. I nodded. Yes, Lily. It is good. Besides, she continued, flipping through the pages, in the drawings I can make us all be together. In real life that hardly ever happens. Only in the old photos from when I was a baby. She found an older drawing, the paper folded and stained. It was a house with 3 windows. In each window a face. Her father, her mother, her. And below, in shaky little girl letters, it said, my house. My house, but without the final E, as if the house, the very concept, was incomplete, broken. Lily, I said, my voice hoarse. Do you know who I am? Really? She set the notebook aside, looked at me, and her expression became very serious, very adult. You are the lady from Chicago. My daddy's wife. The blow was clean, direct. There was no drama in her voice, just a fact. She knew. She had put the pieces together. How do you know? I asked, breathless. Because my mommy sometimes talks on the phone with her friend. And I listen. They say, his wife in Chicago, the wine grower from Napa Valley. And because one time a long time ago I saw a photo on my daddy's phone. It was him with a pretty dark-haired woman in a very beautiful place with flowers. It was you. And he was smiling, but not like when he smiles with me. He was smiling differently. And then, when you came to the workshop, I remembered. And my mommy was very strange afterward. And last night, when the 3 of you were here, I knew for sure. Her childish logic was impeccable. She had known everything or almost everything for a long time. And she had kept it to herself, in her fort of branches, in her drawings. And you are not angry with me? I asked, not knowing why her answer was so important. Lily shrugged. No. You did not do anything. My daddy did. He is the one with 2 houses. 2 families. That is not right. At school, the teacher says you are supposed to have only 1 family and love it a lot. My daddy does not do that. He has 2, and he loves them a little or he loves them badly. He loves them a little or he loves them badly. The rawness of her judgment was absolute and fair. It is complicated, Lily. Yeah, I know. That is why it is better to draw it. That way it comes out how I like. She closed the notebook. Do you have kids? The question again, straight to the heart. No. I had a baby, but he went to heaven before he was born. She looked at me, and her eyes filled with an immediate understanding, with that instant pure sorrow of children. I am sorry. That must hurt a lot. Yes. It does. And that is why you are so sad sometimes. Even when you are not crying, you can see it. In your eyes. No one in my entire adult life had ever looked at me with such clarity. Not Michael, not my parents, not my friends. This 6-year-old girl in her branch fort saw the real me. Yes, I whispered. That is also why. She nodded thoughtfully. Then she took a red pencil and scribbled something on the last page of her notebook. She tore it out and gave it to me. It was a heart. A big red heart and inside 3 letters NLD. What is it? I asked. Do not be sad. The letters. And the heart is so the pain will go away. It works for me when something hurts. I took the paper. The heart was imperfect, lopsided. It was the most beautiful thing I had been given in years. Thank you, Lily. You are welcome. She stood up and brushed the dust off her dress. Can you take me home now? My mommy will get worried. We walked back to Burgundy Street in silence, but it was no longer an uncomfortable silence. She took my hand again. When we reached the workshop door, Carla was in the entryway talking to the neighbor. Seeing us, her worry-etched face softened. Mommy, Lily said, letting go of my hand and running to her. I was in the park with Mrs. Natalie and we talked. Carla looked at me over her daughter's head. Her eyes asked 1,000 questions. Oh, you did? And what did you talk about? About roller coasters. And drawings. And how Mrs. Natalie also had a baby who went to heaven. Lily said it so naturally that tears sprang to Carla's eyes. The girl looked at her. Do not cry, Mommy. I gave her a heart for the pain. Carla knelt and hugged her daughter tightly. Thank you, sweetie. You are the best. Now go on up. I need to talk with Natalie for a moment. Lily obeyed. At the door, she turned and gave me a little wave before disappearing up the stairs. Carla wiped her eyes and came closer. Thank you for taking her. The neighbor called me panicked. But I am glad you two talked. She knows, Carla, I said without preamble. She knows who I am. She has known or guessed for a long time. Carla closed her eyes and nodded with a gesture of resignation. Yes, I suspected. She is very smart. And she hears everything. And what did she tell you? That her father loves us a little or badly. That she fixes things in her drawings. And that life is a roller coaster without the fun part. A sad smile appeared on Carla's lips. That is my Lily. She has a clarity that hurts. She paused. Michael called an hour ago. He is in Chicago. Says he needs the whole week to think that he cannot. He cannot breathe. One more week. Nothing will change. No, I said. Nothing will change for him. But we have changed. And she, I gestured upward, is not a baby anymore. She deserves the truth and a stable life. Carla nodded. Yes. You are right. And after today, after seeing her with you, I know what I have to do. What we have to do. Whatever he chooses, we have to protect her and ourselves. Together, if we have to. We were not friends. But at that moment, in front of the doorway on Burgundy Street, we were something more solid than allies. We were two women who, through the pain caused by the same man, had found a common ground. The desire to protect a child and to salvage the pieces of their own lives. Together, I confirmed. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Michael. Short. Natalie, I am back in Chicago. I need to see you. Just to talk. Please. I showed it to Carla. She read it and rolled her eyes. Same old song. Let us talk. Let me explain. He needs to buy time so he does not have to choose. Yes, I said. And then I made a decision. I did not reply to the message. Instead, I wrote a new one addressed to both of them, to Michael with a copy to Carla. Michael, there is nothing more to talk about. Your week started yesterday. Use the time to decide, not to try to convince us. Carla and I are no longer listening. We will only act. From now on, any communication will be through my lawyer or Carla's. Choose well. I sent it. The sound of the message going out was like the definitive strike of a gavel. Carla received the copy on her phone. She looked at it, then looked at me. A real though weary smile appeared on her lips. Well done. I said goodbye to her and started walking. As I turned the corner, I stopped. I took the folded paper Lily had given me from my purse. The lopsided red heart. NLD. Do not be sad. And for the first time in many weeks, I felt that maybe, just maybe, not all was lost. I had broken the silence. I had found an unexpected ally. And I had met a child whose innocent wisdom had given me more clarity than 7 years of anything. The road ahead would be hard. There would be lawyers, divorce, scandal, pain. But I was no longer alone. And I was no longer afraid. I put the heart in my purse close to me and kept walking under the New Orleans sun. There was a little girl in a workshop in Bywater who believed a drawing could fix things. And maybe in a way she was right. Because sometimes to fix something you first have to draw the new outlines, erase the old ones and start over with a new pencil on a blank page. The week passed with the slowness of a glacier. Chicago, under a leaden late winter sky, became the stage for my silence. I kept my word. I did not answer Michael. His messages, increasingly scarce and desperate, were deleted unread, his calls rejected. My lawyer, a brisk and efficient woman named Melissa Carter, handled everything. "Leave it in my hands, Mrs. Bennett. That is what you pay me for." And I did. Meanwhile I moved. I could not stay in the apartment in the Gold Coast, steeped in memories and the ghost of a life that was never real. I found a small bright apartment in the Lakeview neighborhood to rent. Minimal furniture, white, new, nothing to remind me of the past. My father, from Napa Valley, had sent me a generous check. "So you can start over, daughter, without depending on anyone." At first I wanted to refuse it out of pride. Then I understood it was not charity, it was love. And I accepted it. Carla and I maintained sporadic contact, cool at first, then more practical. Brief texts. She would inform me that Michael had gone to New Orleans one day, had spoken with her, had left without deciding anything. He is the same. Lost. I would inform her that the divorce papers were in motion. We were not confidants, but we were accomplices in the execution of a sentence. On the morning of the 8th day, the morning the ultimatum expired, I woke up before dawn. Not from anxiety, but from a strange, expectant calm. I made myself a coffee and sat by the large window of the new living room, watching the city turn from gray to orange. I knew that day something would end, and something perhaps would begin. At 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. It was not unexpected. I had felt it coming. I opened the door. Michael was on the landing. He looked like he had aged 10 years in a week. Sunken eyes, unshaven, the same wrinkled jacket from the day I kicked him out. But there was no longer anger in him, nor desperation, just an infinite fatigue and something akin to resignation. "Hello, Natalie," he said in a hoarse voice. "Michael, can I come in? It will just be a moment." I gestured for him to enter. He did, closing the door behind him. His gaze swept over the new apartment, minimalist, empty of his presence. A muscle tensed in his jaw. "You have moved." "Yes." "It is nice." "Different." "Yes." He stood awkwardly, not knowing what to do with his hands. Finally he sighed. "I spoke with Carla yesterday." "I know. She told me." He nodded, as if he knew she would. "I have made a decision. Or rather, I have understood that the decision was already made. By you two. By me years ago when I married you while lying." His words fell into the silence of the room, flat, without drama. "Tell me," I requested, though I already knew. "I cannot come back here," he said, looking me directly in the eye. For the first time I saw no lies, no calculation, just the naked, painful truth. "You do not love me. And you are right not to. I have destroyed your trust, your life, everything. And even if you wanted to forgive me, which you do not, I could not look you in the face every morning, remembering what I did to you, what I did to Carla, to my daughter." "My daughter." He said it with a new ownership, without ambiguity. "And with Carla?" I asked. A grimace of pain crossed his face. "Carla does not love me. Or she does not love me as a man to share a life with. She told me very clearly that we were over years ago, that only Habit and Lily were left. And now, after all this, not even that. She just wants me to do right by Lily, to be a real father, present or at least consistent. But that her house, her bed, her life are no longer a place for me." I knew every word was true. Carla had hinted as much in a text. I have told him there is no going back here. The girl is the only thing that matters now. So I have no place left anywhere, Michael concluded, his voice breaking slightly. "I deserve it. I know." "And what are you going to do?" I asked, without an ounce of compassion but without resentment either. Resentment is also a bond, and I wanted to cut them all. "I am going to live in New Orleans. But not with them. I will rent a small apartment, look for work there, or continue with the studio but move the base of operations. I want to be close to Lily for whatever she needs. To take her to school for weekends. To be her father, not a visitor. It is the only thing I have left. And it is the only thing I should do. It was perhaps the first adult responsible decision he had made in his life. Not driven by desire or cowardice or family pressure, but by duty. A duty to the innocent child he had brought into the world. Your mother will not be happy, I said, almost as an aside. A bitter smile touched his lips. My mother no longer has a vote in my life. We had a conversation. I told her that her world of appearances is over for me. That I am going to do what I must even if it means scandal. That if she wants to see her granddaughter, she will have to swallow her pride and treat Carla with the respect she deserves. I do not know if she will do it. But I will. He surprised me. This was a new Michael. Or perhaps the man he always could have been if he had not been smothered by the expectations of the Bennetts. And us? I asked, referring to the legalities, the practicalities. I will sign whatever you want, he said immediately. The divorce papers, the settlement. I will not give you any trouble. This apartment, the one in the Gold Coast, it is yours. Or we can sell it and you take half. Whatever you want. I do not want anything. Just that one day, maybe a long time from now, you can stop hating me. I do not hate you, Michael, I said. And saying it out loud, I knew it was true. I despised you. I hated you for days. But now I just feel pity and a great weariness. I want you to sign the papers to go to New Orleans, to be a good father to Lily, and to leave me in peace. Forever. He nodded, swallowing hard. There were tears in his eyes, but he did not let them fall. I will. I promise. He paused. Can I ask you one last thing? What is it? You and Carla. Are you? The question surprised me. I thought for a moment. No. We are not friends. But we have an understanding. A respect for what we have been through and for Lily. She is the bond. A bond that does not tie us to each other, but that obliges us to behave well toward one another. For her. Michael nodded, understanding. She is an incredible little girl. The only good thing I have ever done in my life. Yes, I said, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of emotion unrelated to my own pain. She is. Take care of her. I will. He walked to the door. He stopped with his hand on the knob. Goodbye, Natalie. Goodbye, Michael. He left. The door closed with a soft click. This time there was no drama. No shouting, just the final sound of a chapter closing. I stood in the middle of the empty living room. I did not cry. I took a deep breath. The air of the new, history-free apartment filled my lungs. It was clean air. A month later, the divorce papers were being processed, but the settlement was final. Michael had signed without a fight. We sold the apartment in the Gold Coast. I kept my share in my new apartment. He moved to New Orleans just as he said he would. According to Carla, he had rented a small apartment in Bywater, 2 streets from the workshop. He was picking Lily up from school 3 days a week. He was still clumsy and insecure, but he was showing up. Lily, her mother said, was calmer. She knows he is coming and he comes. That is enough for her for now. One spring afternoon, my phone vibrated with a video call. It was Carla. I accepted, surprised. Her face appeared on the screen, lit by the workshop light. Hi. Am I bothering you? No, not at all. Is everything okay? Nothing bad. There is just someone who wants to say hello. She moved the camera. Lily appeared with her gap-toothed smile. Hi, Natalie. Hi, beautiful. How are you? Great. I made a really nice drawing at school today, and my daddy picked me up. And tomorrow we are going to the zoo. She was talking a mile a minute. Hey, do you live in Chicago? Yes, I do. Well, my mommy says maybe this summer, if we want, we can go to Chicago for a day to see the park of Millennium Park, Carla's voice said in the background. That is it. To see Millennium Park and take a boat tour on the lake. Would you come? I looked through the screen. I saw a hopeful Lily and Carla in the background, nodding with a slight smile. It was not an invitation to friendship. It was an invitation to build something new, something different around this child. A bond that had no name but existed. Of course I would, I said, and I smiled for real. I would love that. Great. Lily shouted. I will make you another drawing. Bye. Bye, Lily. Carla came back on screen. Thanks. She is fond of you. And I think it is a good thing if it does not bother you. It does not bother me. Good. Well, we will talk then. Take care, Natalie. You too, Carla. I hung up. I stared at the phone. Then I got up and went to the balcony. Spring in Chicago was beginning to paint the trees on the street green. The air was fresh, full of promise. I did not know what the future held for me, if I would find love again, if I would have children, if my life would always be this, quiet and alone in my Lakeview apartment. But for the first time in a very, very long time, that uncertainty did not scare me. It made me curious. I had chosen this solitude. I had carved it out with blows of truth and pain, and now it was mine, all mine. The winter had passed. The storm had passed. And I, Natalie Thompson, formerly Mrs. Bennett, was still standing. I had lost a husband, an illusion, a son. But I had found myself. And in the process, I had earned the respect of a strong woman in New Orleans, and the spontaneous affection of a 6-year-old girl who believed that drawings could fix things. Maybe she was right. Maybe life was just one big drawing. And I finally was holding the pencil with a blank page in front of me. I smiled, breathed in the spring air, and went inside. I was hungry. I was going to cook something for myself. Just for me. Did you enjoy this story? Leave a comment and hit the subscribe button to support the channel. More tales are on the way.